Hello and welcome back to the channel. Ryan's back with me, finally. Long time coming. We're slackers. We just take ages to listen to the discographies we want to do, and you got to deal with it. But when an episode of Ryan comes around, we've been waiting for a long time for it. So it
Yeah.
kind of makes them extra special. Today, speaking of extra special, we're talking about a band. I don't know about you. Of the ones we've done, this is my favorite. This is my favorite band that we've done together. I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Alice in Chains as well. But
Alice in Chains was very good, yeah. But I I love Blur's discography. I was familiar with all of these before going in. More familiar with some than others, which we'll get into. But I think the vast majority of their discography is very good. And it's one of those things where maybe my ratings of the albums might not reflect how much I love Blur. Like I want to get that off the top. Like it's one of my favorite bands, but because of the era that they were in and the way they did their albums are quite long for the most part. So you are going to get some filler, which is going to drag the ratings down. But yeah, I mean, all these albums have great songs on them, all of them. So yeah, what about you, Blur? I assume similar.
very similar. Yeah, I knew all these albums but two, so that's pretty much the entire discography, really. I didn't know Think Tank and Leisure. They're the only two that were new to me coming in. And it was just a refreshing one. And yeah, all these albums, like I say, they've got absolute great, especially the singles, really. Yeah, great, well-known singles. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to do. It's definitely a lot of fun to do. And yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. One of my favorite bands as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those where we were thinking about what bands we wanted to do together, and this was one of the obvious ones, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So there are 8 albums to rank. Ryan's going to go first. For some reason, I'm wearing the same jumper that I did for Weezer and Television. That wasn't a plan,
Oh,
just accidental. But
yeah.
your number 8. What have we got?
Okay, my number eight, their seventh album, 2003. I'm at a 5 out of 10. It's Think Tank. Um, not bad reviews on this one, to be fair. So 5 out of 10, not a hot take, but some people like it quite a bit more. Um, I didn't notice that before going in, but as you pointed out to me, no Graham Coxon. It's just really missing him so much. I feel like if he was on this album, he could have done a lot to these songs. Because it's a bit kind of, I don't know, I got a bit bored, forgettable really. I listened to it once in full and I was like, couldn't really remember it. So when it started with Ambulance, I'm thinking, yeah, this is decent, a bit different. But after that song finished, and after I finished the album, I don't really remember that much. It's not a bad song. I've tried it again, but yeah, my favorite's Out of Time, second one, fairly decent single. Not amazing, but that's definitely my favorite. And there's Crazy Beat, which is one of the worst songs, full stop, really. I could not believe how bad that song is. Um, with all the years and that robot voice, Crazy Beat. Nah. And yeah, the rest of it's fairly generic, very Radiohead kind of style. Going for. I think Damon's probably more interested in gorillas at this time, and there's no Graham, so it's not proper Blur for me. So yeah, 5 out of 10 for that one.
Yep. Also, my bottom, also 5 out of 10. Um, yeah, interesting album. This for me, my favorite element of Blur is Graham Coxon's guitar, bar none. Probably Alex James's bass is a second, and you don't get much of his bass on this album either. Even though he's on it,
Mm.
he's not as prominent. Yeah, I'm pretty much going to echo almost everything you said. I knew this album going in, and I remembered not liking it, and then I heard other people say they liked it. So I was like, okay, well maybe I'm wrong, but I wasn't. Uh, like you said, they're really doing like a Radiohead type sound without their virtuoso guitarist. So it's kind of like
Mm.
it's just. I think a lot of this album is ego, right? And I think at this point, Graham had been listening to a lot of stuff like Pavement and and the sort of the indie rock in America that was going on, which obviously influenced the two albums before this a lot. And I think Damon was pulling in another direction. And I think this album was Damon saying, I don't need Graham Coxon. I can do it all by myself. And yeah, you did need him. So, but yeah, I agree with you. Ambulance is really good, but not the most memorable song. But while it's on, it's good. For me, the best songs are Out of Time and Sweet Song. Both very sort of pretty songs. On the Way to the Club sounds like a bad Gorillaz B side. Crazy Beat, Fatboy Slim just absolutely murdering a Blur song. So the song itself isn't that bad, but the way it's put together is just
Yeah.
so. Yeah, that's my number 8. No surprises there.
Yeah. And my number 7, I'm at 6 out of 10 now. It's the other album I didn't know. It's a debut album, Leisure. Not too surprised that these have gone for bottom for me because I kind of avoided them because I didn't think I would like them that much or as much. But 6 out of 10. And to be honest with you, this one surprised me. There was quite a few songs that I liked on here. It's kind of a mix between like kind of hard rocking, like really loud stuff, and that like kind of Manchester scene, Stone Roses, Happy Mondays kind of scene. There's another way, bang, kind of examples of the Happy Mondays kind of Stone Roses kind of stuff, and they're really good songs. Or there's like Slow Down Full, Wear Me Down, the closer, which is absolutely just shredding. It's really, really loud. And I really like Wear Me Down, and they're the more rocking stuff. There's a few duds in here, and a couple like just can't forget the ones full come together, kind of kind of towards the back half. Not that good for me, but yeah, it almost got 7 out of 10 for me, but realistically, it's a 6 out of 10. But it's some good stuff, and they're not quite found the sound yet. But yeah, that's Leisure for me.
Yeah. Also, my number 7, also a 6 out of 10. So we're pretty much. I don't think we'll be on this level of agreement throughout the whole video, but yeah, to me, this is the sound of a band still yet to figure out their sound. But while they are ripping off the Stone Roses and My Bloody Valentine with the shoegazy type sound, there's still some great songs here. I really like She's So High. Um, you know, again, Stone Roses vibes through the roof, but it's kind of memorable. That chorus is really nice. Bang is pretty much the song on the album that gives you the best sense of Damon's unique vocal style. And you get a song like Repetition, which is a bit of a dirge. And even the guitar on this album isn't as good as what it would become, I think.
Mm.
It's a bit pedestrian at times. So yeah, not that into it. Sing is really lovely. That's on the Trainspotting soundtrack, I think. That was how I first heard that one. And yeah, There's No Other Way is obvious standout. That riff is incredible. The first sign where you see, okay, Graham Coxon has got something special about him. So those 4 songs are the real highlights. The rest of the album, like you said, pretty forgettable. Nothing bad on there really. But the top 6, that's the Blur like canon. Those are the Blur albums that you need to listen to. These 2 are for the diehards, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Okay, my number 6. I'm hoping we do change up our albums here, but I'm not sure. I've gone for the newest album. I'm at 7 out of 10 now. It's Magic Whip, and yeah, it's a solid album. It's a really, really solid album. I think it's really consistent. There's not really any weak tracks. I've rated all the tracks, and there's nothing below 7 out of 10. For the songs, it's just it's missing that big single, that kind of big Blur kind of pop, absolute banger. Probably Loads from Street Openers, closer to get to that. But yeah, just missing that classic kind of Blur pop song for me to get it up to that 8 out of 10 score. But yeah, there's good songs in here. Ghost Ship's probably my standout. Really good guitar on that one. I'm glad they moved away from the kind of experimental think tank stuff. It's a lot better. But yeah, it's a really nice listen. And doesn't have any bad tracks. It's an easy 7 out of 10. Just missing the bangers to get it up there for me.
Yeah, we will be diverging. My number 6 is The Great Escape. which I mean, I like it, but I can't help but feel this is wasted potential with this album. And the fact that it came out a year after Parklife, I think they were probably pretty burnt out. There was this big rivalry with Oasis that was probably doing, people talk about like the Beach Boys Beatles rivalry and how they made each other better, right? And how they forced each other to keep putting stuff out. I don't think that's the case with Blur. I think the rivalry with Oasis kind of burnt them out and put pressure on them that they didn't need. And obviously after this album, I haven't mentioned the next two after this, I think they find a new creative identity, and they don't feel confined to Britpop because the singles
Mm.
are amazing. Like Charmless Man, that was a song I kind of took for granted, but Graham's guitar on it is amazing. Country House is obviously iconic. And then the other single, The Universal, pretty gorgeous, pretty unlike anything else they had done or would ever do. Um, I mean, yeah, the singles, you can't argue with them. And Stereotypes, the opening track, what a banger that is.
Oof, yeah.
Uh, you get a really nice sort of mellow track near the beginning too with Best Days, but there's just too many songs. There's too many songs, and uh, a lot of them are quite poor. Like Fade Away, not a fan. Top Man sounds too much like Charmless Man. Like it just sounds like they're trying to do that again. Um, Mr. Robinson's Quango is like they're trying way too hard to be like clever. Um, he thought of Cars, nice little gem near the end, but yeah, it's like I haven't even written anything really down about the 8 tracks that come after the Universal because there's,
Oof.
there's nothing there that I really like. Like it's fine when it's on. It's just doesn't leave an impact. So it's a good album. It's a 7 out of 10, but it's not a complete album to me. I think the highlights are so good that when the rest of the album isn't as good, it's kind of disappointing. So Great Escape's my number 6.
Fair enough. Um, Number 5 now. I've gone for self-titled, 1997. Yeah, and yeah, I've noted the same thing as you kind of just saying there. I think they were worn out after that Oasis massive battle. It's just a lot, and I don't think, especially Damon and Graham, I don't think they particularly enjoyed that too much. It was a lot to do. So instead of making another kind of Britpop album, change of style, um, alternative rock, and yeah, I mean it opens with absolutely banging songs too, absolutely brilliant songs, big singles. Um, for me, that what puts it down slightly from an 8 out of 10 is it's kind of the Damon singing sometimes. It sounds like his voice works so well for them Britpop albums and the Britpop sound, but sometimes with these singles, MOR and On Your Own, it's not quite working. His vocals not quite working as well with the melody for me. The alternative rock sound. But his voice on the acoustic stuff, the lo-fi, real lo-fi acoustic stuff is brilliant. You're So Great, Look Inside America, ones like that. They're brilliant songs. And yeah, I'm just a little killer for you, love. That's a bit too lo-fi for me. That's probably my least favorite on there. But yeah, I think overall, it starts with the two bangers. Nothing else is that good. But especially the acoustic stuff, lo-fi acoustic stuff, I really like. So it's a 7 out of 10. Cut a couple tracks, possibly an 8.
That's fair, I think. Probably the reason why you like Damon singing on "You're So Great" is because it's Graham that sings that one. So,
Oh,
um,
what?
yeah. So my number 5 is the Magic Whip, which I think when I first listened through the discography, I liked a bit more. It's still an 8. I still think it's really great and kind of underrated. Um, I recently listened to this discography of XTC, and I noticed a lot in this discography that Blur were probably very inspired by them. And I think this is the album that shows it the most, especially on Lonesome Street. That sort of like quirky pop kind of style. I really like the piano-led New Old Towers. I think my favorite thing about this guitar, about this album, is Coxon's guitar tone. It's so warm. Just sounds amazing. Like probably the best tone he got on an album for
Hmm.
me. Um, I think Go Out is pretty catchy, sort of industrial Nine Inch Nails type edge to that one, which is pretty cool. Ice Cream Man is like really bizarre, but I really like it. I think Alex's bass line is really good on that one, and Graham's guitar, obviously. I thought I was a spaceman has some amazing drums, which is not something I'm going to talk about much in the discography, but I think the drums on that one are really good, really atmospheric song. And I think it's really cool because obviously Graham came back for this album, and there's a couple songs where Damon and Graham share lead vocals, where like Damon will sing the verse and Graham will sing the chorus, or vice versa. And I just think that's nice, that they were able to do that when Graham came back. I broadcast cool punky track. My Terracotta Heart, definitely a highlight too. There are too many of us as a great marching band. Beat to it. Ghost Ship, like you said, obvious highlight. Graham's guitar lines in the chorus of that song are amazing, and I think it's one of my favorite ever vocals from Damon. Just so sort of pretty and restrained. And yeah, Pyongyang, not a big fan of. Last two songs are pretty good. But yeah, I think I've always liked this album, maybe more than most people. Um, and I think it's deserving of this placement. But I think I was probably a bit too high on it the first time round, and yeah, but definitely worth a listen. Definitely really good album considering it comes like 25 years nearly after their debut. Yeah, really really good album.
Okay. Well, my number four, sticking with a 7 out of 10. It's a great escape. It's a great escape. Yeah, same thing as it's kind of just following from where Parklife kind of left off. Um, Maybe a bit worn out. There's quite a few weird songs on here. Um, Experimental and kind of weird slash different styles. Which is good. Yeah, Starts Off Stereotypes. What an amazing song that is. So catchy. Country House, that's a brilliant song. I know Damon said he don't like it. Obviously, that was the single that went against Oasis, and it won, deservedly so. But yeah, that's a brilliant pop song. It's absolutely brilliant. A lot of fun. I like Best Days, yeah. Slow ballad. Charmless Man, absolute banger, so catchy. Fade Away, I like Fade Away once again. Really good horns, like it was like a solo section, really catchy again. Top Man, not a big fan of. Universal's obviously classic. Um, He Fought Cars, It Could Be You. Globe Alone, really good rocker. And yeah, there's a lot to like on this album, but there's a couple kind of duds, kind of just songs that don't stand out. They are a bit weird, I suppose, a bit like Emerald's same, very weird song. And Top Man is weird as well. But yeah, I think overall, just continuing from where they left off at Parklife, and obviously I love that album. I love the Britpop sound. Um, high highs, a lot of solid tracks that I would go back to, kind of deep cuts, but just a couple songs that put it down from the 8 for me.
Harsh grader. Okay. My number four. I suspect you're going to have this a little bit higher than me. I've got Modern Life is Rubbish, which I have as an 8. Um, yeah, this album is definitely the one. This and The Great Escape are the ones the most where I feel like. Well, to be fair, there's other ones as well, but that feel like the most from being so long. But I think this album in particular, there isn't enough variety for me. It's a lot of loud power pop kind of Britpop songs, just again and again and again. And I think it was very early in their career, and I don't think they'd quite mastered how to like sequence an album and have there be breaks from the loud. Because listening to this on headphones, I was a bit like, fucking hell, after a while, just like very loud. But obviously, it gets an 8. It's my number 4, and that's because it's a really great album despite that. For Tomorrow, what a statement of intent. Immediately, you listen to Leisure and then you put on For Tomorrow, and it's immediately a whole different band. Um, Damon's almost like rapping over the la la las at the end. It's really cool. Advert, another great song I've always enjoyed. Love the hook. Colin Zeal, great showcase for Graham and Alex. My favorite parts of Blur, as I mentioned. There's some great parts in that song. Um, And there's some songs like Pressure on Julian, which I just think is okay. Star Shaped, I really like. Really, really catchy song. Blue Jeans has this cool, like, psychedelic vibe. You get Chemical World, which is really good. Leads into Intermission, which I also like. Um, and then, yeah, there's sort of less memorable tracks as it goes on. I've heard it probably 3 times now, and apart from like Villa Rosie, there aren't many songs on the second half that I really, really love. But while I'm listening to them, it's good. It does just, yeah, just gets a bit exhausting by the end because of how loud it is and how relentless it is. You know, it's over an hour long. Um, and if it was tighter, I could definitely see a 9. This is really the sound of Blur announcing themselves. So yeah, this is definitely one of their more acclaimed albums. And I think that's definitely deserved. I just like 3 albums a bit more.
Very good. Well, we are up to 8 out of 10 now, finally. My number 3, it's 13. Um, yeah, just a really solid album overall. It's got, once again, the singles are standout. And for that's obvious reason. It's got Tender and Coffee and TV both early on in the album once again. And they're just absolutely brilliant. Um, yeah, very experimental, kind of moving off from the alternative rock and just going kind of art rocky, just straight up experimental stuff. Bugman, I love, super messy, crazy wailing guitars, and a really good vocal, which actually goes with that one well. My favourites on here, we've got Battle. Once again, that's quite catchy, but still experimental, similar to Tender in ways. Same with Cowmel, quite a long one. Whispered vocal, nice catchy. No Distance Left to Run as well. That's a standout. Really, really sad boy track. But yeah, solid. It's just not quite as fun as the 2 that I've got higher, and as Great Escape as well. But it's just more consistent than that one. Yeah, there's a lot of songs I like on here. It's got the 2 classics which I go back to all the time if I fancy a bit of Blur, but some really good deep cuts as well. It's a solid 8 out of 10. I just like the more fun Britpop stuff as well. But yeah, very good album.
Might surprise you that 13 is also my number 3 at
Mm.
8 out of 10. So things have changed in my list. It was a 9, and it was right there with Parklife at the top on my first listen. Is Parklife still at the top? You're gonna have to find out. But yeah, I think I've grown. This is a very experimental noise rock album for Blur, right? Obviously, it's not Sonic Youth, but for Blur, it's very fuzzy and loose, and you have to be in a very specific kind of mood to get a lot out of the whole album, right? And I tried it this time round, and I wasn't feeling it, and then I came back to some of the deeper cuts a couple days later, and I still wasn't. I still love it, obviously. It's just like I was putting it at such a high bar, and then I came back to it, and like you said, the best songs really stand out. Tender, unbelievably strong opener, like not just a great song, but great as an opener as well to lead you into this album. It's sort of almost gospel inspired track, really cool. Bugman, like you said, is so insanely fuzzed out. Um, is pretty cool. And then you get Coxon singing lead on Coffee and TV, which is a certified classic. Love at first listen. Crazy chord progression all over the place. Melody is so unique for that reason, you know, like it doesn't really sound like anything else. Swamp Song is pretty unhinged. And then I like 1992 a lot, actually, really beautiful song. With the occasional flourish of unhinged guitar. Battle, I don't quite like as much as you. It sounds like it's good. It's probably too long for me, but it's all right. It's good in the album context. Yeah, the album does drag a bit, and that's a trend. Um,
Mm.
a track like Trailer Park just feels really lazy compared to some of the stuff they were doing earlier in the album. Like this kind of experimentation they're doing on that song doesn't feel anywhere near as good as some of the other stuff they're doing. Like they're just like, oh, we'll just make some noise and figure it out later. Um, I, yeah, Caramel is good. I really like Trim Trab, really catchy song. And obviously, yeah, No Distance Left to Run is a great highlight. Would be a great closer, but then they chucked the Octagon one at the end for some reason.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, I think a combination of overplaying the best songs and forgetting about some of the filler has dropped this a little bit, but it's still in the medal position in bronze, and I still think it is a great album. But I can't help but feel disappointed because I was thinking going into this, 13 might take number one, but it's dropped. So
yeah,
fortunate, but I still like it a lot.
yeah. Fair enough. And that's one of the things with these Blur albums. They are all about kind of 50 minutes. And like my scores, like we've got a lot of sevens. All of them sevens could be an eight if we just kind of maybe trim a couple, or I don't know. But yeah, what can you do? And this eight, number two, 8 out of 10. Modern Life is Rubbish. Could definitely be a nine. It's got a lot of great songs that I absolutely love. I just, like I said previously, I love the fun. How much fun these kind of Britpop albums are. It's so much fun. Kind of cheeky. Um, and this one still has that. You mentioned it. It's still got a bit of leisure, just a bit in how kind of loud it is. Like Advert, um, Chemical World is quite loud, and that piano doodle at the end, the intermission bit. That's the type of fun that I'm after on these albums. And absolutely love. But yeah, For Tomorrow, it's an absolutely brilliant opener. Advert, brilliant. Star Shapes, yeah, that's brilliant. Blue Jeans, so one. Chemical World. Sunday Sunday, the drum sound on that one. Super big, fun song. Oil Your Water is really good. Kind of similar to Blue Jean. Pop Scene, not on the album, but it's worth mentioning. That's a really, really good song. And yeah, overall, I just love how much fun it is. I agree with it. Yeah, there's not a lot of variety in it, but I just love the sound. So that's fine. That's fine for me. So yeah, it's all 8 out of 10. Once again, cut a few. Probably could get a nine, but yeah, it's a very solid 8 out of 10 for now.
Yeah. So my number two is self-titled. Don't worry. Uh, on my first listen through, I didn't quite get this one. It's probably down where Great Escape is, 5, 6 spot. Just keeps rising every time I listen to it. You could definitely argue that this is the biggest example of Graham and Damon pulling in different directions. Graham is very into Pavement, Dinosaur Jr., Guided by Voices, these kind of indie bands of American indie bands of the time, and that's very much reflected in the sound of the album. And you've obviously got everybody else on board because that's the kind of sound that they go for here. But I think they were all glad to be doing something that wasn't the classic Britpop. And immediately from the start of Beetlebum, their opening tracks are so good at introducing the albums, right? And
Mm.
Beetlebum, that opening riff, you're like, okay, this is something different. This is going to be good. The guitar on that song is so cool. And it turns out the lyrics on the bridge are not "piss on him," and they are "he's on it," which I found out very
Oh,
recently. Um,
I was going to mention that. Do not worry.
yeah, but yeah, then you get song two, of course, which is the big hit. To be honest, I like it, obviously, but it was nowhere near my songs list. I don't consider it one of their best songs, but for what it is really fun and really good. Good track two, song two. Um, they are, yeah. So then you got Countryside Ballad Man, which is pretty bizarre. It took me a while to get used to it, but I do like it now. And there's actually quite interesting hearing about this album and how it got a lot of hype at the time, uh, for a very short period of time by like music magazines and reviews and stuff. And then a couple months later, little album called OK Computer came out, and kind of all the British rock praise was going towards Radiohead, right? So it's kind of interesting to imagine what an alternate reality of that would have been, how this album would be seen, because yeah, I just thought that was pretty interesting. I disagree with you. I think MOR and On Your Own are both fantastic songs. Um, just the choruses on those songs are amazing, and the guitar from Graham on this album is amazing. His tone is so dirty and muddy, really cool. Um, Theme from Retro is the first song on the album where I'm like, yeah, don't need this. But luckily for me, it's followed by the glorious hidden gem that is the Graham Coxon song, You're So Great. Really lovely sort of acoustic love song. And that guitar solo in that is amazing. It's probably my favorite solo of his. It's like stuck in my head right now. Um, and then yeah, this is the reason it's landed at number two is I think it has some of my favorite of the deep cuts. I like Chinese Bombs. They did a lot of shorter punk tracks, and I think that's one of the best ones they did. And then you get two back to back that I really love. Look Inside America, just amazing. Again, kind of a commentary on the music scene that they were observing and sort of taking from, I guess. And then you get Strange News from Another Star, which almost sounds like a lost David Bowie song, you know? Really, really cool. Um, and then, you know, Essex Dogs at the end, I could do without it. But it just, I love the experimental edge of the album. It's not perfect, but it's eclectic. It's filled with loads of different styles, great high points, great step into a cool new direction. And it's just now that's grown and grown on me. It's still an eight, strong eight. If you honestly, if you just get rid of Essex Dogs at the end, I could justify giving it a nine. But it's like 8 minutes of just it's the '90s, man. They just had to put like
Yeah,
a noisy song at the end just to annoy you. But yeah, same number one, thankfully.
same number one. Yeah, I was just about to say after all of that, quite a difference after six, but the same number one. And for me, it wasn't really close. I'm up to a 9 out of 10 for Parklife, and it's basically Modern Life is rubbish, but a lot better. There's more variety in it. Its production's better. It sounds better. And yeah, them first four songs, they're all 10 out of 10 songs for me. It's an unbelievable start. Girls and Boys, crazy disco song, kind of tongue in cheek, super catchy, super fun. Tracy Jacks, that kind of calling response. Tracy Jacks. It's just a lot of fun. Super kind of British, kind of lyrically as well. End of the Century, yeah, same again, kind of more of acoustic number. Part Life is obviously classic and proper geezer vibe with Phil Daniels on it. You know what I mean? It's a proper geezer London song. Bank Holiday, that's one of them punk rockers you're kind of talking about. And I think that's, for me, that's one of my favourites of their kind of shorter punk songs. There's Jubilee as well, which is kind of a punk one as well. Bad Head, Brilliant Horns, Debt Collector once again, just an interlude, but it's kind of that fun, just keeps that fun kind of vibe. These interludes, and yeah, I could go on really. To the End's a favourite. There's lots of brilliant deep cuts as well. London Loves, Magic America, Clover Over Dover. They're just some brilliant deep cuts for me. Just great bass throughout this album, and obviously great guitar from Graham as standard. But the bass, like especially Girls and Boys, Clover Over Dover, the bass on them songs is unbelievable. And yeah, the band sound great. But Graham's voice, I mean, Damon's voice is absolutely, brilliant for this kind of sound, this album in this era. It just works so well for me. And yeah, it's a classic Britpop album, and it sums the genre up the best way possible. Um, so yeah, 9 out of 10 for me. Parklife, not far from a 10 out of 10. It's just a lot of fun to listen to.
Yep, my number one. Anyone who watched my favorite album series will have noticed it was the only Blur album to make my list. So, barring massive change, which I did get with another album with 13, which, you know, going into this, I thought it was going to be 13 versus Parklife. What's going to win? And
Mm.
because 13 fell off and Parklife was just as good as I remembered it, the gap between one and two has never been bigger than it is right now. 9 out of 10 for me as well. I agree with you. The album starts amazing. Girls and Boys is immediately the best song they'd done up to that point, and it's not even close. One of the all-time great bass lines, in my opinion. Tracy Jacks is not a deep cut, but it's not one of the bigger songs on that first four run. You know,
Mm.
least well known, but I think it's amazing. Like you said, really catchy. The ooze is great, great drumming. The strings are awesome. End of a Century, more acoustic. Love the lyrics. The mind gets dirty as you get closer to 30. It's like really funny. Park Life, similar to song two, it's a classic, but I kind of resent that people only know Parklife and Song 2, and they kind of dismiss Blur for that.
Yeah.
They're quite gimmicky songs, you know. Um, so I like them, but they're not going to make my songs list. Bank Holiday, like you said, fun punk song. Bad Head, the guitar from Graham on that song is amazing. Um, Far Out is the first Graham vocal you get, and it's not great. Graham would get better as a singer for sure. To the End, obvious classic, so emotional, melodic, pretty. London Loves has like a new wave vibe. You know, mention XTC again, maybe a bit Talking Heads in there. The Oh Wow vocals are really good. Over Over Dover, really unique sound within the album. Darker songwriting that Damon would explore later on show there. Then This Is a Low, really great song buried towards the end, so soft and beautiful. Lot 105 is a bit unnecessary, but at least it's short, you know. Again, it's not perfect, but it is still a classic, and I think the filler on this album feels less intrusive than on other albums for me. And yeah, definitely one of the strongest albums of the '90s. Probably my favorite Britpop album. Probably, we'll see. Maybe there's some stuff I haven't heard because me and Ryan have talked about doing all the big four Britpop artists. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But
We'll see.
Yeah. There you have Blur. Discography ranked. Really fun to revisit these. Like I said, self-titled went up, 13 went down. My opinion on them overall, kind of the same as it was. I don't want to say they're a songs band because they're not. They have some really good albums, but they are definitely a product of their time. And when you're going into the discography, you have to be aware that they're not going to have these like perfectly refined 40-minute albums where every song needs to be there, right? Like they're going to have some couple filler songs, but it's worth it because there are great singles and amazing deep cuts as well. Which the more you get into them, the more you're going to love those deep cuts, I think. So, yeah, pretty satisfied we did this.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I agree with you. It's just, yeah, the CD era, the 50-minute albums, not ideal. But then again, you know, they made these songs, so you know, at the time, if they wanted to cut these down, they might cut the wrong song or something.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, speaking of long albums, Ryan and I have also decided that our next discography is going to be Guns N' Roses, who definitely have some long albums. 6-album discography, so that's going to be interesting. Appetite for Destruction. I literally only know
Yes.
3 big singles. That's all I know. So I'm going to be
going in blind.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But that's what this is about. It's about having a bit of fun, trying some different things, and then maybe after that one we'll reward ourselves with a better discography. We'll see.
Well, you've not done it yet. You've not done it.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. Roses. We'll see.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. There'll be a songs video coming soon, and hopefully we will catch you soon.